Hello everyone and welcome to today's session, Audit Ready AI Steady, the compliance reset you need. I'm Andres with Melillo and I'll be your host today. I'm excited to guide you through a conversation that is critical for regulated organizations on the path to modernization. You're about to hear from one of the leading voices in digital validation and compliance transformation, Dori Gonzalez Acevedo, CEO of Procelerx. She's going to show us how Archive as a Service can shift your compliance posture from reactive to resilient, and how compliance flow prepares your data for what comes next. With that, I'll turn it over to Dori to set the stage.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Dori Gonzalez Acevedo, CEO of Procelerx. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to work with Melillo Consulting in rolling out Archive Flow, an Archive as a Service model that will help many organizations. Today is not just about archiving. It's about readiness, trust, and transformation. Before you can apply AI, before you can automate, before you can modernize your validation processes, you must clean house. Archive as a Service is your compliance vacuum, if you will, your risk broom, your digital inventory map. You can't build trust, intelligence on cluttered, non-compliant, and inaccessible records. Today, I want to discuss an issue many of us face: data management. We've all heard about the power of AI, but let's be clear. AI can't fix a mess. Instead of hoarding data, we need to start thinking about archiving. But archiving, we mean preserve the data that truly matters and streamlines our systems. As we move forward, let's explore how a fresh start can revolutionize your data strategy. Together, we'll look at practical ways to transform this chaos into order. Now that you've heard what's at stake, let's break down how we'll tackle it today. This roadmap will guide us from identifying the problem to seeing the solution in action with a live demo. Let's take a closer look at today's agenda. We'll kick off with an overview of the current state of application lifecycle data today. And this is crucial because understanding where we are sets us the stage for the next steps. Next, we'll dive into creating a fresh start. This is about taking a step back and reevaluating how we manage our data. It's an opportunity to rethink old processes and embrace new, more effective strategies. Following that, we'll explore archiving as a service. This innovation approach can significantly streamline your data management operations by making them more efficient and less cumbersome. And finally, we'll wrap up with a demo. This will provide a practical hands-on look at how these concepts come together in real-world scenarios. So let's take a moment to think about the phrase, before you automate, clean house. It's a simple concept, but profoundly impactful. Before diving into automation, it's essential to ensure that your data is structured and clean. Think of it as preparing the foundation before you build a house. Without a clean slate, automation processes might only magnify existing issues rather than solve them. This step of cleaning up your data is not just about removing clutter. It's about setting up your organization for success. By ensuring that your data is pristine, you're creating a robust environment where automation can truly thrive. Remember, a clean start opens the door for efficiency and effectiveness. In all your future tech ventures, this is going to be essential. We're dealing with data overload today. Legacy systems in ALM clutter our validation landscape. Screenshots, spreadsheets, SharePoint chaos. Inspectors want original, approved, unaltered records that are accessible. We must modernize record keeping to match our digital validation ambitions, but also push back on what and how our strategy is at our organizations. So let's dive into why data integrity is so crucial in our digital age. When we talk about cleaning house, we're emphasizing the need to focus on data integrity. Okay, this isn't just a housekeeping task. It's about ensuring that our data is accurate, consistent, and reliable. Without this focus, organizations can't find themselves battling significant compliance challenges. These challenges can block automation and AI efforts, which are vital for staying competitive in today's organizations. Moreover, without strong data integrity, the overall operational effectiveness of an organization can be significantly impacted. Think about data integrity as the backbone of your digital strategy. It's what supports your compliance, fuels automation, and ultimately drives success. Now that you understand the compliance risks, let's dig in to what really archiving is all about and how it can become a driver of transparency and trust. Let's delve into the significance of archiving in today's digital landscape. Effective archiving isn't just a back-end task. It's a cornerstone for ensuring compliance and accessibility. A well-structured archiving system allows businesses to manage their day-to-day data with greater efficiency. This management helps mitigate risks related to non-compliance and data loss, which are critical concerns for any organization. By establishing an organized archive, companies can streamline processes and make more informed decisions. This approach not only fosters a culture of transparency, but also builds trust within the organization. Ultimately, a robust archiving strategy is instrumental in paving the way for operational excellence and trust, key components for any successful business strategy. Too many organizations today are holding on to outdated ALM workflows and data with no archival strategy. Paper records are being submitted to PDFs and called validation. Poor data hygiene equals no AI foundation. You wouldn't train an AI on junk drawer of screenshots or exports, right? You train it on clean, approved, time-stamped data. That's what Archive Manager enables. In our rapidly evolving digital world, ensuring compliance is not just a guideline. It's vital for maintaining regulatory standards. We want to avoid penalties and safeguard sensitive information from potential breaches. This isn't just about ticking boxes. It's about protecting our organizations and the people we serve. Enhancing accessibility is another key component. When teams can efficiently retrieve crucial documents, it streamlines workflows and boosts productivity across the board. Imagine the time saved and the stress reduced when your audit team, knows exactly where to find what they need, exactly when they need it. Lastly, fostering trust through effective record management builds a solid foundation for decision-making. When stakeholders see that the information is reliable and well organized, it instills confidence. It ensures them that decisions are being based on accurate data, which strengthens relationships and bolsters your reputation. By focusing on these aspects, we not only improve operational effectiveness, but we also create an environment of trust and transparency. This is where AgileApprove and Archive Manager come in. AgileApprove assures that we're getting the right things signed, which is trustworthy, and Archive Manager ensures what we get is preserved immutable. No more spreadsheets tracking approvals, no more drives of zip drives, and where we're not just archiving records for the sake of archiving, we're archiving trust. Archive as a service is not a backup solution. It's purposeful, built for compliance. It provides immutable, auditable, accessible storage of validated artifacts. It supports the full life cycle of evidence preservation in alignment with regulatory expectations. Let's dive into the concept of archiving as a service. Now, this isn't just another storage solution. Think of it as your compliance vacuum and risk management tool. Archive as a service helps organizations manage records efficiently. It's about ensuring that your data is not only accessible, but also compliant with regulations. This service allows us and you to clean house, so to speak, and to organize digital assets. With this level of organization, businesses are better prepared for modern challenges. It allows you to confidently embrace transformation, knowing you're always ready for whatever comes next. Remember, this isn't just about storing data. It's about setting up the stage for operational readiness and success in rapidly changing landscapes. You can't leverage AI on scattered, unstructured data. Archive ALM data becomes semantic, structured, and contextually rich. It becomes usable. That opens the door to AI use cases like trace matrix validation, gap analysis, and even predictive risk scoring. Once we digitize approvals and archiving, we enable smart co-pilots, predictive models, and eventually autonomous assurance. Let's dive into the key benefits of maintaining clean records. First, operational efficiency. When your archives are well organized, your team is ready for compliance audits, and you can meet regulatory requirements without any unexpected disruptions. This preparation is crucial for seamless operations. Next, we have readiness. Keeping your records clean builds and fosters trust with stakeholders. It reassures them that your organization is committed to transparency and accountability. This trust is a cornerstone of effective business relationships. Finally, trust again ties into operational efficiency. With streamlined access to organized archives, your team can make quicker decisions and enjoy smoother workflows. This leads to more agile and responsive organization. Clean records are not just about compliance. They're about building a foundation of success. So how do we stop compounding this technical debt? We fix the root cause by validating correctly in the first place and preserving it permanently. This is where AgileApprove and Archive Manager come in. Let's focus on how paper records can surprisingly compromise data integrity and compliance, even if they seem valid at first glance. Now, when we talk about aging ALM workflows, we're looking at processes that can actually slow us down. These outdated workflows lead to inefficient quality system management, which none of us want, but it's like trying to run a marathon with weights on your ankles, right? And speaking of weights, let's talk about the data hygiene. Poor practices here can really hold us back, especially when we want to leverage AI in key marketing strategies. It's crucial to understand that good data hygiene is essential. Think of it as the foundation upon which effective strategies and test strategies are built. And finally, we have technical debt. Addressing our quality systems is key to improving organizational efficiency and maintaining data integrity. This isn't just a task, it's an investment in your testing future. So let's explore some key statistics that reveal challenges many organizations face today. Over 80% of organizations are grappling with aging ALM workflows and data systems due to inadequate archiving procedures. This lack of proper processes can severely impact operational efficiency. And consider this, more than 95% of companies still rely on paper records in some form or fashion. And this dependency often results in misleading validation practices or data integrity, which can compromise the integrity of everything that you're doing. Lastly, a significant number of organizations recognize the need for improved data practices to fully harness AI initiatives. So poor data hygiene stands in the way to leverage that AI efficiently. Improving workflow management is not just about efficiency. It's about reducing technical debt, which can weigh heavily on an organization. Are you finding your organization is drowning in that technical debt? If so, this sets the stage for our next discussion on addressing compliance challenges and the importance of adopting comprehensive archiving solutions. Let's delve into the next. If we explore the pressing issue of compliance in our digital age, systems sprawl and outdated practices are more than just a headache. They're barriers to ineffective data management. The sheer volume of data today makes it tough to stay compliant while ensuring easy access. And adopting comprehensive archiving solutions is not just beneficial, it's essential. These solutions help businesses meet regulatory requirements and streamline their processes, enhancing both data integrity and accessibility. In this data-rich world, organizations must manage their information effectively to tackle compliance challenges head-on. Think about how your organization handles data. Are you ready to adopt solutions that not only ensure compliance, but also simplify your data management processes? Everything discussed sets the stage for this. Outdated systems don't just slow you down, they actively complicate validation. So what's next? Modernizing how we manage the validated records. Let's talk about the complications first in validation due to these legacy systems and the challenges they present in a digital compliance space. Many of us know firsthand how outdated systems can hinder our efforts to keep up with the evolving compliance standards. The crux of the matter is simple, though. We need to modernize our record keeping. By doing so, we can streamline compliance processes and significantly improve efficiency. As we look to modernize, we're not just aiming for compliance. Our goal is to boost overall operational efficiency. This transformation will position us better to handle future challenges. Long-term record retention is required by 21 CF Part 11, Annex 11, Alcoa principles, and many others. But what you archive also depends on your predicate rules. Archive Manager ensures that those requirements are met, even as systems change or are retired. And remember, paperless does not mean recordless. Let's dive into how digital solutions can transform our compliance practices. First, we streamline data management, making them more accessible and clutter-free. This shift not only helps us manage data better, but it also clears the way for more innovative compliance processes. Utilizing advanced technologies is crucial. If we make implementing these technologies simpler, it can make things more accurate and more efficient for the entire business. So this is not just about tools. This is about embracing a mindset that values precision and clarity versus clutter. Fostering a digital culture is key. Encouraging a mindset among our teams will promote the adoption of modern compliance practices. It's about modernized record keeping, moving away from outdated methods, and fully embracing the digital age. By embracing these digital solutions, we need not only stay compliant, but we also become more agile and more forward-thinking. Without Archive Manager, many of you are keeping legacy systems online just for audits or all history forever. That's expensive, risky, and outdated. Spreadsheets, PDFs, and tribal knowledge, it all adds up to a liability. Archiving as a service is a clean break that lets you retire systems without losing integrity. So let's explore the critical issue of technical debt within application lifecycle management today. Many of our aging ALM workflows are lacking archive capabilities. This shortfall leads to inefficiencies and compliance challenges, a significant roadblock to effective quality management and automation efforts. Now, implementing robust data hygiene practices is not just beneficial, it's essential. Without cleaning these well-organized records, we cannot build a solid foundation for AI or trust our validation processes. Additionally, relying on these paper records instead of digital solutions can create a false sense of validation. This complicates processes and increases the risk of non-compliance, an outcome none of us wants. By addressing these issues head-on, we're paving the way for more efficient, compliant, and innovative workflows. Every rung of modernization requires trusted data below it. First comes archive as a service, then Agile Approve provides our workflows, then test acceleration, then we can get to predictive scoring and AI validation co-pilots and all the rest. It starts with clean validated data. So what does this mean for us? First, it highlights the importance of having accurate and organized data. Without it, advanced tech analytics and insights we can't get, and we can't get that to move forward with AI. Clean data forms the backbone of our ability to do that. This is essential in making timely, informed decisions that propel our organizations forward. Embracing data hygiene isn't just a technical task, it's a strategic initiative that supports our long-term goal. Let's ensure we're setting ourselves up for success by prioritizing the cleanliness and the integrity of our data. Let's walk through how this all works together. ALM handles your process, Agile Approve handles your digital workflows and approvals, Archive Manager preserves it all. Together, they deliver validated, future-ready, compliant lifecycle management support. Archive as a habit is more than a technical process. It's a behavior-driven strategy and designed so that it must start from the top. It's today's data-heavy environments. There's no reason to continue accumulating terabytes of information that add no value. It gets intentional about what gets preserved, and it evaluates whether or not it contributes to compliance, risk mitigation, or strategic insight. And if that doesn't do it, right, you have to let it go. Building in automated archival as part of your routine operations, not only as a last-minute fix, beforehand, it encourages a culture where archiving is not only expected but appreciated. One where teams are free to focus on innovation and value-add activities instead of sorting through digital clutter. Archive Manager was built specifically for regulated industries and ALM specifically, and we're expanding beyond that. It's tamper-evident, time-stamped, fully indexed, and aligned with FDA audit expectations. It ensures that every decision, every record, and every signature can be located, proven, and defended even years later. Let's talk about archiving as a habit, not as an afterthought. Most organizations treat archiving like spring cleaning, and I hate spring cleaning, a scramble that happens when the system reaches its limit or renewal costs loom. In modern compliance-driven environments, archiving must be integrated into daily operations. Capture records consistently, automate archival routines, cultivate a mindset where preserving validated, approved information is seen as strategic and not burdensome. When archiving becomes habitual, compliance becomes sustainable. It stops being a burden and becomes a competitive advantage. It's time to start treating all records equally and start applying critical discernment. Not every requirement, test run, defect, or legacy application deserves to come with you into the future. We must hold the line and prioritize smart, informed decision-making. What gets carried forward should be based on compliance risk, business value, and its relevance, not inertia.
Okay, here we can see that we have an ALM project that has a bunch of requirements. We have some tests that are there. These tests are set up that they cover those requirements that we looked at. We also have a test set, as you can see, with 3 executions. There's actually 4 runs against that and a defect. So what we want to do is we want to be able to archive this data into Archive Manager. Okay, here we are logged into Archive Manager. We're going to go into Administration. We're going to create a new archive. And to do that, we select the connector, and then from the connector will give us a default ALM URL, and we just go and find our domain and project. We can test that the data is okay. We're going to give this archive a name called Calc Demo and make sure that everything's here. There's a lot of parameters that we're not going to worry about. Now that we have that created, we can pick how many approvers we need for each entity. So we have one for each. Now we're going to assign our archivist, our data owner, and our viewer. Here we just have my one user, so I'm going to go ahead and just assign me to all of the items. So we now have this archive created, and we can go on to the next step.
This is your chance to finally let go of the digital baggage you've been dragging from system to system, from upgrade to upgrade. In our AQM Fresh Start approach, we help you cut through the noise and identify what truly matters. Think of it as a data detox. You don't need every artifact from 2009. You need the evidence that proves compliance, supports your decision-making, and empowers transformation of your systems today. We guide you in making bold, strategic choices. You identify the essentials, you selectively reactivate what supports the future, and you archive the rest permanently, securely, and in alignment with regulatory expectations, and then you discard it at the appropriate time.
Now that we have our archive created and we're set up as an archivist, we're going to go ahead and go into that archive and create a deposit. So we're going to deposit data from ALM into this archive. We have to come up with our name. We'll just call it full project for this sample, and we get an empty deposit. So now we have to actually add data to it, and we're going to define it by saying give us everything from the project. So whenever we do that, the connector went out and gathered all of the tests, all of the requirements, runs, defects, and everything's gathered in. As you can see, we can look at the details, but by looking at the details here, we're actually not looking at data in Archive Manager. It's still going to ALM for that. And our next step is having Archive Manager analyze that deposit to make sure there aren't entities that are checked out or anything like that. So everything went through, looks great. There's no red things saying that there are errors in any of the entities. So we're going to go ahead and say we want to get an approval to process the archive. So here the user signs as a data owner. We only need one. So as you can see, it went to a status of approved. Then from approved is where we can process the deposit. This shows the information on it. So now we're going to go ahead and check out this deposit again to ourselves, and we're going to say process it. This is where the Archive Manager connector actually copies the data, so it gathers all of the information about those tests, versions, and everything, and stores it into the Archive Manager database. So then these records are no longer linked to ALM. The full copy is here in Archive Manager. So you can see we get through, and now we have our tree view, which should be familiar, and this is the data from Archive Manager now, no longer stored in ALM. As you can see, we have all of the fields that are there. We can see the test coverage. We could go look at the details of that test. We see that there were 4 steps, the same as what ALM had. It had parameters with default values. It had a configuration with values in it, and we have all of the data from ALM here. What we're going to do here is go ahead and generate a report from the root requirement and say give me a full requirements report, so all the details, and we're going to pull this out into a PDF. So as you can see, the PDF came in. We'll open it up real quick, and this is just a standard report type that we have. This is customizable, so we have our own XML format for how you can format this, put your own headings, pick what data you want or you don't want, and get pretty creative with that. There's also a grid view, of course, runs in defects. Since they're not in a hierarchical tree to begin with, they end up in the grid view, but you can see the details of this run execution. If there were attachments, they're there. You can see the images in line. You could download that attachment out of Archive Manager to your local file system. So all of our data is now pulled into Archive Manager.
This isn't just a cleanup. It's a turning point, an invitation to stop hoarding and start clearing space for something better. The goal is not just digital order, it's digital readiness. Take this moment to do more than just an upgrade. Take the opportunity to recalibrate, Clean up your data, refine your business processes. Let the power of AI and intelligent analytics finally step into your full potential. AQM isn't just a technical upgrade, it's a strategic reset, a fresh start. Using Archive Manager and Archive as a Service, it gives you a clean slate where only the valuable, validated, reactivated content moves forward, and everything else is properly archived with precision. This is about clarity, not clutter. This reset allows you to shed inefficiencies, improve compliance, confidence, and build the digital trust layer AI requires to operate meaningfully. When you let go of what no longer serves you, you make room for innovation.
Okay, now what we're going to do is we have a brand new project. So we have our new test project. We're going to log in and just see that there are no requirements in here and no tests. And we want to rerun some of our tests from our calculator archived project. So what would be really nice is if we can pull in all of these requirements, and if the requirements are covered by a test, let's go ahead and grab that test also and make sure they're linked so that we're ready to go in ALM. So we can do that with this tool Reactivator. So we're going to start up Reactivator. I already have a map defined. We're going to use that map, and as you can see, we're logging into our Archive Manager instance, this archive and deposit. We have to use the correct user ID and password. So we're connected to Archive Manager. Now we're going to connect to this new project in ALM. And we're going to say use those two servers. What it'll do is verify that our mapping is correct. So it loads in. And in this map is where we decide which files from our archive project, which fields should go into which fields in our target. The system does a good job of trying to match them up, but there are some that we may want to override. For example, the comments. I wanted to override that to be able to add where this record truly came from, so there's a reference back to this Archive Manager instance. And here you can see the test, we did the same thing. We want the approval status to be draft and it have that comment. So now we say we want to reactivate a requirement or children. So we're going to start right up here at the standard, and we're going to say we want all of the children and we also want all of the test coverage. And we're just going to put the tests into test plan using the same folder structure. So we're going to target the root requirement in our target project, and we also are going to target the root requirement in test plan for all of our tests. So now that we have a data set that we want to reactivate, what we can do is hit verify, and this is going to let us know what the system will do whenever we run it. And as you can see, it's going to create some folders, it's going to create some tests, and going to create some requirements. So this we can review. We could also copy this text to clipboard and paste it. But now we're going to go ahead and execute, and you're going to see it's going to create these folders, create the tests. Then finally it'll create the requirements, and as it's creating the requirements, it's going to add that coverage link and should be in. So once this process completes, we can then jump into ALM again, and we should see that it's going to have our requirements and tests created and ready to go, that we could create a new test set and start assigning them out, and then starting assigning executions, doing approvals, or whatever else. ALM, as far as it knows, a user keyed all of these in, but the data did come from our archive. So we're going to go ahead and close out of our Reactivator now, because we're done reactivating stuff. We're going to go into the requirements module, give a quick refresh, and we can see that our data is here. We have add two numbers. We have a test coverage to it. We can jump to that test. The test is in. Everything on the main entity is filled in. All of the steps are filled in with parameters. We can see that our parameters are there with default value. The rec coverage was there. So we have this newly created entity that explicitly matches, and we can see the source test ID and the source info of where this entity came from. So this gives us a nice full round circle that we archived the original project. We have that data where it can't be modified, and now We're going to do another round of testing, so we're reactivating it into another project. We now have a nice small targeted project. It's just the testing we wanted to do. And we can go see here that if in Archive Manager we go to that same test, it did have a test ID of 1, and the test is of course a different ID and reactivator, but everything is there as we would expect.
What other fun, like, I know features that you guys are looking at as you go to expand the use cases here?
Well, when you were going at what data had to be archived, it's not only just what recent projects you have available and ready to feed into AI, but with partnership with Procelerix and with you, we typically try to address what is the business and compliance objectives of the company. So that's how we prioritize the features that we're going to need to capture that data, but also just to address the data that is needed to be kept and analyzed. So that's typically how we approach, the consulting on Archive Manager. Not only what is going to be useful and trainable, but what is really aimed to keep your business running in the way that you need it to run and compliant. So using risk-based approach classifying records, looking at past audits and current trends, and get consultants to let us know where things are going to go. We typically aim to minimize the data collected.
So it's available both on SaaS as well as in the cloud, right? So we're offering this as a service as well. And I think one of the things that I like to highlight around that process, it gives you the ability to utilize, again, obviously it depends on the sizes of and the load of your repositories. Like if you're someone that is a large enterprise that has been in, those 15 or 20 years, and you have hundreds and hundreds of assets that you want to potentially archive for stages of time, because we can set the actual decommissioning over time-bound things with legal or with regulatory holds. But as a service, that actually opens up the case for small and mid-sized companies in the mid-market that might not necessarily need these assets for very long, right? As we know, in the small and the mid-sized market, you have a lot of M&A activities that potentially are going on. You might only need things for 2 or 3 years, or maybe 5, and so those are not necessarily long-term gains for you to do all of that internal setup and on-prem deployment and validation and keeping that ready. Rather, we can help you with that, and we can do it for you.
The solution can be purchased as a subscription, so it can be used for as long as we need it. If we're helping somebody with a project, we can create a subscription for whatever length is necessary. We keep archiving the data. We can play with things, see what should be analyzed or not, reactivate projects, and the installation of Archive Manager is pretty simple. There are a few components that have to be deployed, so you can be up and running very quickly throughout your project instead of waiting until the end when you have your data clean and ready to go. We can help you along the way. Things can be dumped on Archive Manager. We don't like that term, but things can be
you're totally right.
used.
Yeah. And then there's also the full audit trail. Andres, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the audit trail is set up and kept in our own database. So you have the electronic signatures created and stored in the either a Mongo database that we use locally, or you can do an AWS document DB, and you own that one. So there's an ALM connector that is going to bring the data. Things are going to be signed and be available for you. That's how we keep the compliance. And all along, as you're accessing the tool, archiving and importing, there's a whole trail that lists every step with its own signature. The signature has components of each one of the elements being archived, plus the signature of the login. So there's timestamps all along the way. So all the different elements that we have to keep is all embedded in every step of the way, and you own it. Once you deploy the database, it's yours to analyze, to back up, to replicate. We just give you, we just need the facility to connect to the database we deploy and connect, and it's all yours.
Yeah. So the other piece of that is to understand different archiving solutions that are out there. There's lots of different tools that do archiving, and why this was needed specifically for ALM and OpenText ALM is how the architecture of that database works, and it keeps everything intact and at a data level or an asset level. Why and how that's different from folks that may do the paper on glass archiving, which means creating a report, PDFing that report, taking that PDF and inserting it into another document management system. That then relies on another technology if you're ever going to really get to AI around OCR or other things in order to take advantage of that. In this situation, Archive Manager captures all data assets at the data level, so there is easy integration with other AI tools in the future. One other thing I wanted to talk about around is this necessary for just GXP, right? Like the added value. And I would argue no, right? Like best business practices for most organizations, especially in other regulated spaces. So GXP is kind of a misnomer here, right? Regulated spaces is anything that needs to be at some level audited at some point in time. So financial records, automotive records, aerospace, all of those have their own organizations that they need to report to. Anything that is a SOX, company needs to go through SOX audits. All of those things have testing assets and requirements and that are valid and need to be kept for a certain period of time. Correct me if I can't remember, Andreas. I believe there's current adapters from everything back as old as ALM 10. I think, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So, and I can't even remember the decade that came out. That's a long time ago. But
Don't do that.
Yeah, Dave and your team have been able to get those connectors available from 10 all the way to the latest ALM, which is fantastic. And then now you can reactivate into the latest as well. And that will keep going as things go forward, as the need continues to be, because it is out there.
Yeah, and like you said, we also skip and avoid some compatibility issues because we picked up everything from the database, like requirements, test sets, stats, the tests, the runs, defects, but the libraries, baselines, business models are excluded. That's not part of the data being exported. So there are some dependencies that could be created because how LM is being changed over time, but the data that we transfer is being consistent. So we can reactivate on different versions, but we can always acquire from many.
So I think that's a good stopping point because, Andreas, we want folks to sign up for demos, right? We want to come in and ask us for what we're offering today, and that's a combination of strategy assessment and archiving as a service to get you up and running as fast as possible. We'll show you ways and how to reduce your overall cost of spend over year to year, and we can work with you on those cost benefit analysis and use cases to bring to your management team.
Thanks for joining and looking forward to those demos. We can show you how it works in real life with good data and play around with it.